Good morning, dolls, and welcome to Little Gretchen's workshop. So now that we're finished with that series of the dolls, it's time for me to get back to work on the dress shop. I need to make sure everything is in proper working condition for Aunt Janie and Aunt Bess regarding their bathroom because I don't want problems like we had at the rooming house. Now, this CHRYSNBON Bathroom Kit was actually given to me by one of you precious dolls. She doesn't want to be named, but she knows who she is. Thank you so much for this kit, and I am honored and excited to use it in the new dress shop. Now, although kits are a lot of fun, I'm a little bit nervous and apprehensive about working with this CHRYSNBON kit. As a girl, my dad always did the CHRYSNBON kits because some of the pieces are very, very delicate. I'm rather heavy-handed, and I always worry about breaking things, but I'm going to go ahead and give it a shot because I really think it's the perfect bathroom setup for this new dress shop. So here I'm just showing you this wonderful paper that came with the kit. Awesome suggestions on how to assemble the bathroom. And you hear I said suggestions, dolls, because sometimes I don't follow instructions. Now, you should always follow instructions when it comes to using and working with chemicals, but I'm kind of a kit basher, so I probably will go along with their assembly, but as far as how I finish it, I'm going to do my own thing. Now I'm just going to start off with adding paint to the pieces that are supposed to be wood. Now, as you can see, I'm not using the paint that came with the kit. I'm actually using some Folkart coffee bean for my base coat for the wooden pieces. Now this is the little medicine cabinet. So after I do my first coat of the coffee bean, then I'm actually dragging a dry brushing of black on the pieces as well. Now adding this dry brushing of the black on top of the coffee bean, it's going to add dimension and help bring out the wood grain that's embedded in the plastic and also give it a little age. Now I went on to start to work on a couple of the other pieces. Now these are the little brackets. One is the bracket for the water box and the other one is a bracket or brace that's supposed to be under the bathroom sink. So I'm just going to go ahead and give them a quick thin coat of the acrylic black and allow them to dry to give the impression that they're wrought iron. Now here I am preparing to assemble the radiator pieces. Now I'm going over them with a thin coat of the Testors silver. I think it gives a really nice metallic effect. I am going to age it and make it look a little bit distressed, but I really want it to be a really authentic looking metal tone. So I'm doing each of the pieces individually before I assemble them. Now, dolls, as you can see, this is edited video. It took me a lot longer to paint all these little pieces, a lot longer than it looked like in this video. Take your time. You want to completely cover all of the white. You don't want any of the white plastic showing because that will disrupt the appearance of realism. Now, after the black acrylic dried, I gave a little dry brush of the silver Testors to these metal brackets. I'm not really sure why I added the silver because I was trying to make them look like wrought iron, but I did. And then I also added a little bit of silver to the towel bar. Now I did also use a teeny bit of the silver to add to the little hinges, just a little bit of silver on the tip of my pointed tool just to drag it along the little, otherwise the hinges would be invisible. Now I did do the silver on the legs of the bathtub as well, but now I'm adding my black acrylic paint and alcohol solution on top of the silver, again to give it an aged look. Using multiple layers of color like this really give dimension and help you to see and bring out the details in your pieces. I think that looks really great. I may need to add a little bit of copper to those legs later, but let me go on. So now, dolls, I'm moving on to using a little bit of Crackle. Now, Crackle Medium is a wonderful tool to help you to add age and time to your pieces. Now, this is a small stool that was in the kit. After giving it a thin coat of the coffee bean, I allowed it to dry and now I've added the Crackle. Now here I am back adding more dry brushing to the little cabinet. I'm adding the black And I'm adding a little bit heavier coat because the first layer I put on, I really didn't like it. To me, it didn't make it look aged enough. So sometime with this, you have to work on it until you're satisfied. And I believe multiple layers just make it look a lot better and a lot more realistic. These layers of color really make it look a lot more like wood. Now here I'm changing from the black to the kind of sienna color. And again, just barely dragging it across the piece to add a third layer of color to help bring out the highlights on top of some of that black and the brown. Now I'm not going to take a long time on this, dolls, because I'm doing the exact same thing on the water box that I did to the medicine cabinet. Just work on it until you're happy with it. And if you don't like it, wipe it off and try again. Okay, so let's get back to this little stool. So the crackle medium is dry. So I'm going to add a generous coat of this succulent green that I used a lot in the rooming house. I really like this succulent green because it just reminds me of that old-fashioned vintage green that was on so many things that I remember at my grandmother's house growing up. So I added a nice thick coat to the crackle medium, and you're just going to allow it to dry. Now, the thicker the coat of color, the bigger the cracks are going to be. Now, I put the brown on the base because I want that to show through. So whatever you put on the bottom is what's going to show through when the crackle really begins to separate. So we'll check on this in a moment. And I'm going to just leave it there to dry while I'm working on this toilet. Now the toilet, I'm just gluing it together. I'm using my Loc-tite super glue gel just to add the two halves together. It's really nothing really spectacular about the assembly of the toilet except gluing together on the tabs. Now I did add the toilet seat, which I did the same dry brushing treatment on that I did on the cabinet and the water box. And the same thing with the lid. And here is my little stool. I really like the way those cracks turned out. It makes it look like it's a really old, rickety little stool, and I think it'll work out really cute in the corner of the bathroom. Now here you just see me adding the lid to the toilet, just squeezing those tabs in between the two jointed areas. I really like the multiple layers of paint on there to help it look like wood. I think it turned out really cute. And here is the water box. So I hope you guys can really see that this is a really simple kit, but putting your individual touches really make the difference. And I'm just doing another quick glance at those legs on the bathtub. I really like them, but I do think I may need to add something else. Now that all the radiator pieces are nice and dry, I'm going to go ahead and do my dry fit, tri fit to see how it goes together. And after I figure out how it goes together, I'm going to glue it with my Loc-tite super glue gel. And it's great because it's got little tabs or nodules where the pieces fit in together. So although it looked like it was a lot of pieces, the assembly was really easy. To me, kits were always like puzzles, I guess, especially if you don't want to use the instructions. Now I just had to add a little bit of paint to touch up the bottom of that radiator where I had sanded, but it looks really good. It looks very realistic. I wish I could buy these individually. I like the way that looks. So I'm going to allow that to dry. So there was a little chain that goes on the water box, and I just wanted to make sure I was going to put it on there correctly. So I actually did look at the diagram. These little pieces are so small, and I would be trying to do this on a day where I'm wearing long nails. So I'm definitely going to need my long nose locking tweezers to assemble this. And although I was a little bit worried about it, the tweezers really helped, and I was able to get it assembled with no problem. So that looks really good. It's going to work out really nice. I'm excited about putting the bathroom together now. So I'm going to go ahead and glue these brackets here. Now these are the ones that I added silver on top of the wrought iron. Now the longest part of the bracket is supposed to be under the box. I added glue to the first one, allowed it a few minutes to dry, and then added the second one. So that's going to be really cute. I'm excited about assembling the bathroom now. I guess I should start putting the wallpaper in, huh? I realized based on the suggestions that this little steam valve goes on the end of the radiator, and that looks really cute. So I added it and allowed it to dry. Now I'm getting to the part that I've dreaded from the beginning. I don't know, it's something about all these tiny pieces, my nails being too long. So I'm trying to carefully separate the little pieces from the brackets. I actually should just cut between the joints. And at first I didn't think of that. I was just trying to bend them out. But some of the pieces are so small and so tiny, bending them out is really, really not a good idea. So word to the wise, cut the little pieces at the stems when you're removing them. Don't try to bend them out because the pieces are so delicate and they're so fragile. And when you try to bend them out, things just do not work out well. And what I dreaded actually has happened. But no worries, dolls. I'll be able to glue it back together. But in the future, I'll just make sure I just use my scissors and cut them all out individually so that I don't have those type of mishaps. Now, dolls, make sure you save all the stems that are left over from the kit. They make wonderful pipe. So here I am trying to piece together those little pieces of the faucet that I broke. And I'm just going to go ahead and install them. But before I install them, I decided I don't want them to be silver. I really would prefer for this setup to look a lot more vintage. So I want it to almost look like that oil rubbed copper or nickel, or I don't know. I just want it to be dark. I got so amused with myself when I was looking at this part of the video. I was sitting here trying to figure out what this was for, and that part is actually for the bathtub. So let me just put the drain under here and go ahead and begin to paint all these pieces so that they look dark like I want them to. So I am using the coffee bean acrylic paint again, along with some copper and black to give a dark tone to the faucets for the sink and for the bathtub. And I think that looks a lot better. It looks really, really old-fashioned, very vintage. And I really like the fact that it looks matte and not all shiny. Now, although I really like the look of the faucets, I really don't like the look of the drain. So after digging through several little bags of what are you keeping that for, I found myself a little bitty drain. Now when it came to the bathtub, I added a little black dot of the matte acrylic paint onto the drain area so that it would look like there's actually a hole for the drain because the tub actually doesn't have a hole. I thought that was a little weird because the sink has a very defined hole. But I'm going to go ahead and put in the little grommet that I found for the sink. And it's just like a little grommet. I'm not really sure what it's for, but it's the perfect size to fit the drain of the sink. I didn't want to use what came along with the kit. And after giving it several coats of the black and the gold and the brown, and then I found a little gold ring of nail art to use on the drain of the bathtub, and I did the same 3-color paint job. So let me show you what I did for the grommet for the sink. I just took it and slid it right into the opening with a little bit of my Loc-tite super glue gel and pushed it right in, and it was the perfect size. I thought it looked very realistic, very authentic. It always amazes me how much little details like that can make. So let me go ahead and show you what I did to make a ring around the bathtub drain. Now if you can see here, I'm picking it up. It's a teeny weeny little gold hoop that again I painted it black, brown, and the copper to give it that really aged, distressed look. And I think it looks really authentic around that little black dot in the bottom of the tub. And now that that little drain ring is in place, I'm adding a little dot of the super glue gel to the area so I can put the faucet back on because it actually fell off when I was trying to install the drain. I'm really tickled about the fact that I really enjoyed putting this kit together, even though some of the pieces are very tiny, which is what happens all the time with miniatures. But I think I was a little bit intimidated by them because the pieces are so fine and so delicate, and I am heavy-handed. So now that that's all done, I just added a really quick coat of my acrylic paint and alcohol wash to the toilet pipe and the pipe for under the sink just to add a little time to them. I don't want them to be rusty, but I do want them to be aged. Now, dolls, it's been brought to my attention that some of you dolls aren't getting my notifications for when I upload videos. So always look for me on Mondays and Wednesdays after 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And if you enjoyed this video today, definitely let me know in the comments. Also, like, share, and subscribe. And I'm looking forward to seeing you on the next episode of Little Gretchen's Workshop. Bye-bye now, dolls.